Can you hear me okay? The fan's not too loud.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay. All right, we're live. Okay, greetings and welcome to another Ligali Live, running at 8:30 as opposed to 7:30. No, it's 8 o'clock as opposed to 7:30. Apologies for the bit of a late start. So you can see we're in a kind of strange, sporadic environment right now, kind of like the boxes empty and everything there. I'm running through Zoom. So I'm going to put the slides up in a second so you can actually join us live through Zoom if you want to. And we should also be on YouTube. So myself and Oleander will keep checking to see if there's any messages or any questions you want to ask me to answer. Yeah, sorry. Let me get started actually. I'm not used to doing it through this, so I know it's not as slick as we usually are or try to be, but we are running on a really minimal setup right now. So I'm going to share the presentation screen. Hopefully you should be able to see in a few seconds the PowerPoint slide. Hopefully it's full screen. Hopefully you can see that. I can't see there's any messages going, but what I'm going to do is run through the stories as I do usually. There's not that many. I'm going to try and wrap this up in half an hour, unless we decide to set the world to rights when addressing these issues. So just double check. Greetings, Oleander. Can you hear me okay? Are you good?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so hopefully on screen, you should be able to see the slides. You see myself, you should see Oleander. I'm not sure how it all works. I could go to, no, actually, I was going to say I could go to Facebook as well, but I'll leave it for today. We'll try that another time. Figure out time. So we should be on Zoom. If you want to join us, the meeting code is 933-9090-5028, or you can just go to Ligali Live on YouTube. So the first story we're going to deal with is this that came out. Now, essentially, Ligali Live, for those of you who are new to the channel, goes over the news stories that have taken place affecting Pan-African community in the UK over the last 14 days. That's 2 weeks. Today we've got a few stories, and I kind of like go over the main headlines and give a little bit of context, and if anything comes up from that we can discuss it, but it's really a snapshot of what's taking place. There's obviously many more stories, and as we build a larger researching team, as we have with the NSAPO, then we're better to do more in-depth work. So this story actually came out a couple of days ago. This was about the British monarch expressing, well, she didn't express it, it was Kenalisa who expressed it, the fact that the royal family claims to support the Black Lives Matter movement. And this came about after discussion for Black to Front, which is a Channel 4 initiative. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. A Channel 4, no, I'll talk about it later, not next slide, but later on down the line. A Channel 4 initiative. The British monarch was in a private conversation and interview, and things came up about whether she should go down to support the Grenfell family when that travesty happened, that massacre happened all those years ago, and issues of that matter. So it's quite welcome to hear that the royal family supports the Black Lives Matter movement in that way. But if you see my raised eyebrow, there's a little bit of cynicism here, because the royal family, as you will probably know, is facing a serious challenge with a member of its ranks, a higher level member of its ranks, actually facing charges of paedophilia. And I'm talking about the one they call Prince Andrew. And I think he's been served with a subpoena, or he's in the process of being served with a subpoena from New York. And it's a story that just won't go away. And so if you remember last year, you had the accusations of racism inside the royal family with Meghan Markle, and comments from another member of the family asking about, or making queries about the color of the skin of their child would be. So right now, this institution is under a lot of pressure So making these kind of statements, I suppose, helps to rehabilitate that. Who knows, maybe they're sincere about supporting anti-racist movements, but all we know is that the timing of this is very convenient. I'm going to move on to the next story. DJ Target, Why the Time is Right for a Black British Music TV Show. And that's not the presenter's name, but the program is going to be called Target or something like this. And it's going to be a BBC program about music of people with African heritage in the UK. And I think it's a timely intervention. BBC's had BBC One Extra for the longest while. That hasn't actually always done a great job. You've had certain presenters doing the work and representing correctly. We've had other presenters kind of like, like the Westwoods of the world, kind of like promoting a whole lot of misogynistic and Afrophobic hip hop and other sort of stuff that's really shouldn't be played under our name. So this lead presenter, he's actually making the point that the time is now. It's right. We should actually have a mainstream TV program, not just a radio program, which champions the music made from African people in the UK.
But sorry to cut you, Toyin. I'm just wondering. Okay, so for me, it's on the surface, it sounds really good, and it's time that this happened. But what my worry is it going to go like the Mobo did? That's my worry. Are we going to see real African people on this program actually making a difference to the world of music? Or is it going to be people who have had influence, just as the Mobo ended up being, and losing many of our people who used to follow it? I mean, I used to go to the Mobo Awards. I got tickets to go before. Obviously quite a few years ago. And then when it changed, I just stopped going, stopped supporting, stopped even watching it on television. I couldn't tell you whether it's even still happening now because I'm just not interested anymore. So yeah, anyway, but that's my fear about the whole thing.
Well, it's a really good point. And I think the best comparison is perhaps not the Mobo, but I understand that, but perhaps it's going to be Capital Extra, because the way this is launching is because when a Mobo launched, it was actually quite authentic, the first one, and Kanye King should be applauded for that. But in the quest to seek sponsorship and finances, they sold the soul of, no pun intended, of the awards, and it just became urban, I think. In fact, they actually played around with this whole idea of making the music of urban awards, and that was just nonsensical. And so nobody who's got any taste in music actually treats the Mobo Urban Awards with any kind of like a reverence, because it doesn't represent good quality music. It represents highly marketed and commercially successful music, and the two things are completely different. The problem with this program, the idea is right, that we do need a program that mainstreams UK artists. And I read the article, and they're talking about not just supporting hip hop artists and grime artists, but also what they call more melodic artists. And I think that's where I'm a bit skeptical. I think it's good that they're going to be UK based. That's crucial. That's the reason why I started Street Soul all those years back, because we just didn't have a space where our work could be promoted. But by narrowing UK soul music or UK music scene to grime, hip hop, and melodic music, therein is the problem. It reminds me of Capital One Extra when it did its cull, and what I'm talking about is that when not Capital Choice, not Capital One Extra, when Choice FM first broadcast and went on air, it was a community station. People like Jeff Schumann doing talk shows, Daddy Ernie doing a reggae show. I mean, you had a real powerful radio station that actually sit in and complemented the community radio stations that were unlicensed. But when Capital took it over and it became Capital Extra to rival One Extra, what happened? They culled all the grassroots music. So they lost the soca, they lost the true hip hop, they lost, I'm thinking about reggae roots, lovers, hip hop, go-go, anything that was outside mainstream R&B, pop and hip hop. was just cut. And so Capital Lecture became the same thing like, I won't say Kiss, because Kiss still had some quality choices, even though they're more house focused, they still played some quality music. But it became more like a Radio 1 when it's doing one of its midnight shows where you have the guest slot DJ from the community who's kind of like got 10 listeners but playing banging music. So this is the fear I have for this, because it's starting off on that premise. It started off without actually referencing the whole gamut of what our music is from the UK. So it's already cut from its terms of reference. Reggae, it's cut soca, it's cut jazz, in all these issues. I've accidentally gone to the next page, so perhaps that's a good good warning. So, but it's a good point you made, Oleander. This slide actually, this is quite related to it actually. So this sister has won, I think it's called a British Fashion Week or British Fashion Britain Fashion Week Changemakers award. And excuse me, I haven't got it 100% right. This week's been a little bit crazy, but essentially what they do, they have this award for people who are making changes in the fashion industry, and she's won it. And there's a story on Financial Times, and she really gives a good account of her history today. And she talks about how she's done these editorials and these spreads and this work, and she looked at her collection for a long time and what she'd been doing, and a lot of it was like 99% was European. And now she's actually saying, no, I've got to do better than that. She made a film about her hair. I think this hair is mine or something like that. And she's decided, no, actually what I want to do now is actually lean into who I am and people of African heritage and talk about, our aesthetics, our culture with some level of pride. So so congratulations to her winning. It'll be interesting to see how she moves on from this as well and doing this. I don't. But I mean, but it's good. The fact that we're starting to recognise, or we've always recognised our own beauty, but the industry is starting to recognise the utility in actually celebrating our beauty. It's actually a good thing. Move to the next page. Just for those of you listening as well, you are listening, watching Ligali live. I don't have this realised because I've done these slides really quickly. I don't actually have the Zoom link embedded on the pages. Well, that was a bit of an oversight, wasn't it, Tom? But if you've been here before, or you can always find them, or one of the older videos, or the Zoom link is always the same every week or every 2 weeks. And feel free. I'm here with wonderful Oleander, and just rapidly going through the news over the last couple of weeks, and just reflecting, sharing some views, giving some updates, what's happening in our community for the wider Pan-African world. So this story is about Rio Ferdinand, and he gave some testimony to Commons, what do they call it? What is Commons debates? This is where politicians come together, select committees, that's the one. They come together, they sit down in Parliament, and they talk about the issue of the day, and they document it and record it and stuff like that, and say what's going wrong and what should happen, and that's it. And he spoke about football. I mean, it's clearly his remit, and he talked about the racism in football. It's not really going away, as we saw what happened with the Euro 2020 finals and the racist abuse that stemmed after that game. It's still a big problem. We are still having a big problem in football. And the select committee spoke about the need to strengthen online protections and pass legislation. I'm actually very suspicious of this, actually, and I'm very cautious and dubious about this. What they're saying is that they want to find ways to identify people who make abuse and statements, and they're going to lead on this and go forward with all this sort of stuff and give Ofcom more power and stuff like that. And it sounds really strange. You think that someone like myself who hates racism would actually be saying, yeah, if someone abuses you with racism, then yeah, track them down and keep them off, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, if anyone's actually been harmful and causing harm, I don't want them to have a free platform to do that. I want them to be held account. But the danger when it comes through these movements, this is often a problem, situations like this, legislation like this. So if you look at what's happening with, what's it called, Black Lives Matter, and not Black Lives Matter, Extinction Rebellion, for example. Extinction Rebellion are going around doing these protests, and because of the nature of the way that they're disrupting London, this is how the bill came in. You know what the Kill the Bill protest was about? That was about actually stopping extreme levels of protest. That was actually bringing the government to account. That was actually forcing their attention. And that has a ripple effect on grassroots communities and what they can do legitimately. It's almost impossible for us to protest legitimately without facing the real risk and danger of being abused and arrested by the police. And some of that has come about because of Extinction Rebellion protests, not because of Extinction Rebellion. Let's be clear about that. I mean, they're doing what they do, and I support the cause of fighting against climate change. But what happens is that, just like with what's happening with Rio Ferdinand, he's talking about racism on Twitter and on social media platforms, and the government used that to charge ahead to pass a draconian law that criminalizes anybody that's challenging the state in a different way. So we really had to be mindful of that. So even though it seems like a good story, and it's really good that he's raising the point that it's sliding backwards, the football industry is sliding backwards in attacking and dealing with online abuse, we have to look at the longer picture about where does this lead to. Go to another story. Okay, the change, that's interesting. Okay, further BAME staff, still using that awful term. Okay, so further staff from African, Asian and minority ethnic communities in the NHS mental health services face racist abuse at work. I mean, the headline kind of says it on the tin. The article goes into a bit more detail, explaining how we need management inside NHS to actually take this more seriously and address these issues. This is not just simply a case of just patients have mental health issues and they're abusing their patients. They're actually abusing them because they're from a minority ethnic community. And this is the issue that this report, which came out last week, I think it's this week actually, came out this week, is addressing, that they're still not done. And I think, I've always got to think about every week trying to give bad news, and it's really frustrating that it always seems to be negative news that's taking place. But unfortunately, it's really important to recognise that it's almost every sector of society where we're seeing Afrophobia, where we're seeing the growth of racism, and we're seeing that people are making statements and issuing fancy words, but they're not doing enough to actually make changes. And I know that there's some wonderful staff who work in extremely difficult environments, groups like mine, for example, and they're under-resourced, and they're working with people who have got some serious challenges. And what happens is that it's just kind of like you hear with the social care health bill, and the rises in taxes. What happens? People say they want change, but they're not really prepared to put in the funding to make the change take place. And this is, for me, another big issue, the whole issue around mental health, as well as racist abuse. They're two issues that we just don't see enough action on. Okay. And then, this story. Can't remember the clown's name. What's his name? Ben John. This was a student. This is ridiculous. This is 2 weeks ago. This is a ridiculous story about a student who'd been found out to be accessing extremely violent material, posing a terrorist threat to minority communities. And we heard, I think, in the last update about the incel movement, that people in involuntary celibate and going around killing people because they can't have what they believe is their God-ordained right to access women, and madness like that. Well, what's happened is that that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's another character that's come out, and to its credit, the state found him, identified him, because they didn't want him to go out onto the streets and start killing people, doing stuff. But this story kind of epitomizes the problem. You see, because this guy went to court, sat in front of a judge. Judge recognized that he was a threat, and then said, like, well, look, I'm not going to put you in jail. I'm going to give you a little bit of a squeeze. You could be my son. He didn't say those exact words, but that's the spirit of what he said. He said, instead of sending you to jail, I'm going to ask you to read Dickens, and Emily Bronte, and all this kind of stuff. And so I want to know that you've been reading this stuff. And if you read these classics, then I'm pretty sure that you'll come out a decent young man and you can avoid jail term. So that's going to be my sentence. And that's what he did. Well, that's what the judge did. I can't remember, the judge was a male.
Ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous, because you know that if that was any other group, African, Asian, Afghanistan, Arab, any other group, they'd be in jail. But for some reason, I mean, I shouldn't say that, it's not fair. I don't have access to all the evidence that was provided. I don't know the child's, I say child, you know, this young man's backstory. He was, you know, I heard that he was isolated, he was a bit of a loner, and all these kind of things. And maybe the judge saw something in this person that reflected them, and they feel that if they had access to this literature, it could change their lives. But the point is that when we talk about disproportionate actions in the criminal justice system, when we talk about aphiophobia taking place at all levels, not just on the street with the police, but also at a high level in the courts, this is the case that people should be thinking about. It is absolutely ridiculous. And so, you know, he's involved in what they call right-wing extremist media and propaganda, but he's not going to jail. And you know, there's issues about should people go to jail for what they read. That's another debate for another day. But if they're actually planning to actually cause harm, and then there's another question that's there. Okay, so I'm gonna close with the final story. I might turn off one of the anchor's camera while she's presenting it to us. Oh, okay, she's back. Okay. The last story, slide 2. Okay, you can see I've put these slides together really quickly. But the information is broadly accurate. So even though the slides are a little bit just kind of like slapdashed. This is about yesterday. Oh, not yesterday. Was it Saturday or Friday? I think it was on
It was Friday, I think.
It was Friday, wasn't it? Yeah, Friday. So on Friday, Channel 4 had this black to front, they called it, a black to front season. Where today, every program, all the trailers featured people of African heritage, just African people. I really don't like just having to say people of African heritage, but I do that because I know a lot of us are still uncomfortable calling ourselves African. But basically, it's not black to front. It was African people on TV day, all day. And I didn't watch it all. I know my queen on the end of it. In fact, can you give us, I mean, I know you saw a few of the programs. Can you give us a little bit of what you thought?
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't know it was going to happen until about midday, I think. And then I thought, oh, that's good. I can put this on in the background and, you know, continue doing whatever I was doing at that time. So I watched, what did I watch? I watched Come Dine With Me. I watched, what was it called? Mel B's Packed Lunch, something like that it was called, which is Mel B from the Spice Girls. And so she presented a kind of magazine, you know, lunchtime kind of program. There was cooking going on, there was arts and crafts, there were people there who were doing all sorts of things. So it was quite interesting. I mean, you could see that you know, she wasn't really a natural presenter, but it's one of those things where, you know, she comes across well, and if given more chance, she'll do much better, I believe, anyway. But it was nice, it was sweet. And then Gogglebox came on with all African people as well. So, you know, I like Gogglebox anyway. So, and all the characters on there, they're quite fun. So that was good. And then I've forgotten there was some other stuff as well. But all in all, also there was adverts, which I'd say 99% were with African people in all of those adverts. So yeah, it was really, I'm really glad I watched it. It really gave me a different feel for the whole day, because, you know, there was just this feeling of, wow, this is all my people on television for the whole day. And I'm not saying it should be like that all the time, because obviously, you know, we live in England, so it can't be. But what I would say is that if there were more days like that, it would kind of boost us, all of us, and you know, and I felt good.
Excellent. I mean, I didn't catch it, unfortunately, but I mean, I heard about it. I think Trevor McDonald was doing Countdown or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Had all different kinds of, you know, and I saw some of Channel 4 News, so that was quite nice seeing Casey and the others kind of like presenting more African news, and we record it. So I mean, I'm planning to watch the news with our children, so you know, they kind of like get it from a different perspective, a different angle. Because I think they started with a story on the Benin bronze in Nigeria as well. Yeah. So it was a good initiative. I would differ with you slightly when you say that we don't have anything like that, because actually the younger generation do have that, because they create what they watch. So when they're watching stuff from YouTube, they pick exactly what it is that they want to watch, and they don't have any fillers. And when we do things, you know, I'm talking about people in general on Netflix or Prime or Apple TV, whatever channel people use, there's a scope to actually pick exactly the programs that you enjoy, which is different. I still can't get over the fact that I can pause live television. I mean, that's a generation I come from, right? I mean, you know, I still watch Columbo on a Sunday when actually I could watch it anytime, you know, and pause it at any time. So there's a different generational shift. But for a mainstream broadcaster like Channel 4 to say we're going to devote and create and produce programs, I think that's what's key, that they produce these programs, or I suspect some of them, specifically to address and to represent people and current affairs around African people. I think that's what's quite revolutionary stuff. Not so much the broadcasting itself, but the dedication, and that needs to continue. There was a program that came on later on. I saw the tail end, literally the credits coming up. I think I saw Gary Young on the sofa. So again, I was able to not go back and rewind it because it was too late, but I was able to record it. So I'm going to watch that later on. And I forgot what it's called, something like Uncomfortable or something like that, or Uncontroversial. It had a single word title. But again, it looked like it was a current affairs program that specifically addressed our issues. And also, I remember last week, or this week, I should say, there was a program from Channel 4 on Grenfell. I haven't seen it yet. I have recorded it. So that was actually talking about some of the narrative that took place before the fire took place. So again, there's more stuff to watch, and I don't often have much time to watch much television, but Channel 4 has done well. And it's very important to remember that Channel 4 is actually facing a serious challenge from this government, who's trying to smash it, essentially, to stop it, you know, being a public service broadcasting the way that it is, and sell it off in bits and pieces, which will destroy its character. So, I mean, this is the sort of thing that we want Channel 4 to do, but more frequently, not just once a year. And it's nice it didn't do it in October. August is really the month for African people in the UK. August and then February as well. But so it's nice. So I think we're done. I think that's, I don't know how long there, is that 32 minutes or that 22 minutes? I'm short-sighted. You always see me squinting. I'm not used to doing this on 30 minutes, not used to doing this on Zoom. I hope it works okay. It's bizarre. We normally get messages and stuff like that. I don't know if it's working, if it's going out live. If it's not, I'm not recording it. So yeah. Well, it says live on the Zoom thing, so hopefully it will be there. Any final words, Anita?
Not really, just to say stay blessed, everybody. I know some people hate that phrase, but I really believe that we need to big each other up. So I do hope that everybody is going to stay well and look after your families, and yeah, take care until next time.
Thank you. And I'll say the same. Well, hopefully see you in a couple of weeks' time. It won't be from our home, I suspect. We don't. Well, that's another question for another day. But we'll be here in 2 weeks' time. Apologies for being a bit late. Yeah, same things. Be blessed. Stay safe. Be kind. and watch over your loved ones, and may the ancestors continue to guide and protect us. Ashe.